How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got banished and got harem with Mizukage? Huge shout out to Anime Death Angel for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Naruto Uzumaki's Journal. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I used to go by the name of Naruto Uzumaki until I found out about my heritage. At the age of 13, the village that had always been my home, Kanahigakure, finally got what it had always wanted, me banished, gone for good. Now you may be wondering why I was banished in the first place. Well, it all started with a mission where I had to bring my ex-teammate, Sasuke Uchiha, back to the village, all because he left in order to gain more power. Of course, the council in their infinite wisdom decided that he was too valuable to let to go and sent Shikamaru, Nara, Kiba Inuzuka and his partner Akamaru, Chuji Akimichi and Niji Hyuga and me. All of us pursued Sasuke through the forest because he had teamed up with the Sound Four. Eventually the group broke as we all started to have one-on-one fights with the Sound Four, and then their fifth and strongest member, Kimimaro. Chuji and Niji both ended up near death after defeating their opponents, Jirobo and Kidamaru. Kiba and Akamaru were nearly killed by Sakan and Yukon, but were saved by the timely intervention of Kankuro. This situation was repeated with Shikamaru being saved by Temari from Taiya. I engaged Kimimaro in battle for a while but was no match for him. Rock Lee saved me in order for me to continue pursuing Sasuke. Gaara, in turn, saved Rock Lee, and both were then saved by Kimimaro succumbing to disease. When I faced off with Sasuke, the battle ended in Sasuke's favor, but he chose not kill me. In the end, the mission was a failure, as Sasuke successfully joined up with Orochimaru. I was so weak back then I felt ashamed. After that mission, I made the decision that he and I were enemies. The next time I saw him, only one of us would walk away. Not long after being released from the hospital, I was called up to the council chambers that resided within the Hokage Tower. Flashback. Hokage Tower. Council Chamber. As Naruto entered the council chamber, he could feel the tension that was in the air, which seemed to suffocate the room. Taking a good look around, he was able to see all those that were present. At the top in the center was Shimura Danzo. He was a manipulative man who would use other people and sacrifice them if it meant getting what he wanted. There were also rumors that he had worked with Orochimaru on occasion, but it was never proven, just like all rumors on the man. The two other elders either side of Danzo were Udatain Koharu and Midokado Hamura, ex-teammates of Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. Udatain Koharu holds the belief that the group is more important than any of its individual members. Because of this, she always tries to do what she thinks is the best for Konoha, even if it goes against the Hokage's or her opinion. She is also quite demure, but does not let this stop her from voicing her opinion. In fact, despite this, Koharu is one of the few people able to put the fifth Hokage in her place when she oversteps her authority. Like Hamura, she is more militant than the Hokage she served under have been, and sometimes leans more to Danzo's point of view. Hamura is somewhat of an authoritarian, but he always has the village's best interests in mind. Like Koharu, he is more militant than the Hokage he served under have been, and sometimes leans more towards Danzo's point of view. The others in the council were all the clan heads of the Hyuga, Inuzuka, Aburame, Akimichi, Nara, and Yamanaka. Hyuga Hayashi was a strange person. Sometimes he either hated nor liked Naruto, but once he defeated Niji he started to admire the boy as he defied fate, as one might say. He was, however, Namikaze Minato's best friend, but because of the laws placed around Naruto he was unable to do anything for the boy, leaving him to the wolves, one might say. Inuzuka-tsum had always liked Naruto even before she knew who he was. She had liked him because his personality was more like hers in every sense of the word. The fact that he had a feral look about him didn't do any justice either. She was one of Uzumaki Kushina's closest friend. She had tried to adopt the boy into her clan, knowing he would be able to learn their clan techniques, as he is more of an animal, similar to all Inuzukas, but was stopped every time by the council. Aburame Shibi had liked Naruto as he could relate with the boy, considering that his clan held bugs within their bodies much like Naruto holding in the Kyuubi. They weren't stupid to relate the two, as they were two separate beings. Shibi had actually gained some sense of respect for the young blonde, as he had been able to fight through all the insults, glares, etc. when any lesser man would cave. The Ino Shikucho trio had also always respected and liked the boy, as they were probably the smartest clans out there. They could easily tell that the boy was the scroll and not the kunai. They had also liked Naruto for the simple fact their children admired him the more he grew up, which actually made them train harder than ever. They were all now sitting in their clan seats along with Tsunade in the Hokage seat. On the other side of the room sat the Jonins and Chunins that were Naruto's friends and senseis, as they had been told to come. And finally there was the civilian council led by Haruno Mabuki, Sakura's mother. It was no secret that Mabuki was a gold digger when she was younger. Back in the academy, Mabuki always tried to bag the prominent future clans heads Hayashi, Fugaku, and Minato, but ultimately failed not only in seizing power but failed as a shinobi, leaving her with fellow shinobi Failure Kizashi. After the Kyuubi attack, the council quickly passed new laws before the Sandaime was reinstated that allowed them more power over the village than the clan heads and Hokage. Danzo, looking as Naruto with narrowed eyes, spoke up. "Do you know the reason for why you've been called?" he asked the confused blonde-haired boy who blinked at him. Not really, I was just told I had to come here," Naruto explained with a raised eyebrow as if asking why he was here. Danzo for a moment looked smug for some reason. "We, of the council, have viewed everything that had happened on the latest mission, and given certain circumstances, we have voted to have you exiled from Konohagakure, indefinitely," he said with conviction, making almost every shinobi snap their heads in his direction in shock while the civilians smiled. "What?" Tsunade shouted in outrage. "Naruto Uzumaki failed to bring back Sasuke Uchiha and allowed him to go to Odogakure with Orochimaru. For that action he must be banished." Koharu spoke up while looking at Naruto with hate through her squinted eyes. "He also used his tenant's power while fighting the Uchiha, putting his life in danger along with anyone else who may come in contact with the boy in the future. Naruto Uzumaki is a ticking time bomb ready to explode," Hamura explained. "We wanted to execute him. The incident at the Valley of the End was not the only time that demonic chakra has been sensed. It was reported on his first mission out of the village, as well as during the Chunin exams and after then, when Sunagakure was invading. We gave him a chance, but enough is enough. However, we've seen how you favor the boy, so decided on exiling him instead," Danzo said, directing his attention to the angered Tsunade. Naruto, however, kept his head lowered. Luckily, all of Naruto's friends already knew of the Kyuubi and didn't see a problem with the blonde-haired boy, so it wasn't so much as a secret anymore. Only Sakura was blind, as she was exactly like her mother and believed Naruto was a demon incarnate. "His seal has not been damaged, it most certainly isn't breaking," Tsunade snapped. "Have you no faith in the Yandaime's sacrifice? The Yandaime, gifted as he was not infallible. And Jiraiya's been keeping an eye on the boy. He's a seal master in his own right. So you honestly think that he wouldn't notice if anything was wrong with it?" Tsunade was absolutely livid. How dare they? Just who do they think they're dealing with? "The seal that the Yandaime crafted for the boy was one of his own designs. It's one of a kind, and only the Yandaime knew how it worked properly. Jiraiya is not qualified to make decisions in the boy. And you are?" Tsunade knew that she had to end this. The mutterings of the council, particularly the civilian half, it wasn't comforting. She opened her mouth to speak, but Koharu cut her off. "So you say that the seal isn't breaking? Well then, what excuse has Uzumaki got for using the demonic chakra? If what you're saying is correct, then the fact that he can call up the demon's chakra himself is something that's even more troubling. At least the Uchiha's seal warrants an excuse for his behavior. That little, how dare she?" Tsunade was struggling to keep her temper. Before anyone could speak, they heard chuckling. Turning to the owner of her, saw Naruto with his head down while chuckling, but not a humorous chuckle, but a hollow chuckle. "You know," he muttered, getting everyone's attention. "I was wondering how long it would take the council to pull this one, treating me as the scapegoat, all because you bastards can't even shit right without help. So what do? Pick the usual punching bag to place all blame on because of your incompetence." He spoke with such coldness that many actually shivered from it, while the elders grew outraged. "Look here, boy. A fat civilian started only for a kunai to go flying past his face and embed itself deep in the wall behind him. A moment later a cut appeared on his cheek. Looking ahead he saw Naruto with his arm outstretched and a cold look in his eyes. "No, you listen to me!" he practically commanded. Everyone else looked at Naruto in shock at the way he was acting. "You say I'm dangerous because I have access to the Kyuubi's power and I'll use it to practically kill and destroy? If that is the case, then why is this village still standing?" he asked rhetorically while looking around. "I have every reason to say fuck it and release the Kyuubi and reduce the village to nothing, but I don't because I actually have people who see me for me and not some weapon, monster, or abomination that should be destroyed. Everything I have ever done is for their safety. I have put my life on the line protecting everyone who is precious to me, and I'm the one on trial here, being told I am a ticking time bomb. Right now, you have no idea how close you are." He spoke as his eyes flashed red for a second, then a sort of rippling gray before going back to blue, which startled everyone there. "You are a danger to everyone here. It is only a matter of time before your presence brings destruction to Konoha." Koharu spoke through gritted teeth, anger clearly displayed on her face. All of a sudden, everything seemed to click in Naruto's mind before a small smile played out on his face. "I know the real reason you're all doing this," he said with a smug tone, making the elders and the civilian council stiffen. "Your fear for those outside the village is amazing. You're not worried about the people of this village, you're worried about yourselves, worried that I have a group of S-rank missing nin after me for the power of Kyuubi. And you know they will come for me, just like Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki did recently. Am I right?" he asked with an arched brow. "What?" Some asked, confused, not knowing who this group was. "The Akatsuki." Jiraiya spoke up, coming from out of the shadows, having listened to everything and had a scowl on his face. "Are a group of S-rank missing nin after the Biju's power for who knows what, and what Naruto is getting at is that the elders and civilian council want to banish him to protect themselves." Everyone who had heard was gobsmacked that Naruto was in such danger, and yet the village were throwing him away to save themselves. "That is irrelevant as of now. Right now we will place a vote, whether or not Naruto Uzumaki will be banished or not." Danzo spoke up, drawing all attention back to himself. "All for?" he asked, raising his own hand up along with the advisors and civilian council, which was actually the majority of the council now that clans have become empty in the village. "And against?" He spoke with a smug tone, already knowing the result, as Tsunade and the clans held their hands up with defeated looks but nevertheless showing Naruto their support. "Naruto Uzumaki, you will be out of this village within 24 hours or you will be executed. You can't do this." "Tsunade," Naruto said, stopping Tsunade in her tracks after using her name instead of Bachan. Looking up at him, she saw Naruto, who had a smile on his face despite what's happening. "Don't worry, this is the best for everyone, and you know it deep down," he said with a sigh, seeing her look down. Turning to Danzo, he got a smirk on his face. "Oh, and when you record this down, I want my full name there, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. So when you people find yourself in trouble with your enemies, or if Akatsuki decide to attack anyway, don't you dare ask for my help, because as far as I'm concerned, this village can burn to the ground," he said with crimson eyes, staring at the council before be vanished from the council chambers, revealing that the Naruto they were talking to was a Kage Bunshin. What he said would leave many people stunned at what they had just been told. "He's the son of..." Kiba spoke, not able to finish the sentence. "Yeah," Kakashi answered with a sad sigh at failing his sensei's son. "And this village has just banished him," Niji whispered in shock. The elders, civilian and shinobi sides of the council weren't faring much better, but Inoichi spoke what everyone was thinking. "Dear God, what have we done?" Flashback end. Obviously I wouldn't let the village burn just because of my anger at the elders, but for the first time in my life I just wanted them to feel fear, believing that I wouldn't help them. The only reason I ever would is because of Tsunade and Jiraiya, as well as my precious people. Enough of those bad memories though. I should started explaining a little about myself. Names: Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Leaf's Yellow Flash, Yandame Hokage of Konoha, and Kushina Uzumaki, Akakiri no Konoha, Red Blade of Konoha, and wife of the Yandame Hokage. But you all already knew that. What you didn't know was that my ancestor is Hagoromo Otsutsuki the Rikudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths. I know, crazy right. See, the story goes that Hagoromo had two children that would become ancestors of the Uchiha and Senju clan. The Uchiha ancestor would inherit his father's eyes while the Senju ancestor inherited his father's body. What most people don't know was that Hagoromo had a third child, a daughter that inherited both the eyes and body of her father, and would become the Uzumaki clan ancestor. It was because of her that I got the Rinnegan, the dojutsu of the Sage of Six Paths himself. Enough about history, let me tell you how I unlocked the Rinnegan. While my clone was dealing with the council, I was cleaning the Namikaze estate of everything it was worth: scrolls, money, furniture, weapons, etc. By the time the civilians and elders found out what I was planning, I was long gone. Later I met a traveling pair of merchants, named Byakuya and Rukia, who were expecting their first child. They were heading to Nami no Kuni to settle there and invited me along. A couple of days afterward it happened. After leaving a couple of clones to make sure the two were safe, I went to scout ahead. A few minutes later my clones dispelled. From their memories I saw a missing Nin from Suna and some bandits' attacks. By the time I got there it was too late. Byakuya and Rukia lay dead, huddled together while their killers laughed. The next thing I knew, I screamed as I faced their killers and blacked out. When I came to, not only were the bandits and Sunanin dead, but the entire area was devastated. Feeling something off about my eyes, I picked up a bandit's sword and gasped at what I saw. My eyes were no longer my father's ocean blue, instead they were light purple with a ripple-like pattern, which spread over my eyeballs. Immediately I started panicking but soon calmed down and buried Byakuya and Rukia. Afterwards Kurama told me about my dojutsu, the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan is the greatest of the three great dojutsus, with its first welder being Rikudo Sennin. With it I could use Doton, Futon, Raiton, Suiton and Katon, as well as sub-elements like Hyaton and Ranton. The Rinnegan also allows the user to see chakra, including the chakra points within the body, as well as otherwise invisible barriers. But the coolest part Kurama told me about the Rinnegan was its trademark technique, the Six Paths technique, which grants the user multiple abilities. The Deva path can control gravity. The Azura path can clad the user in mechanized armor and grant them various weapons. The human path can read minds, at the cost of ripping out the victim's soul. The animal path can summon various creatures. The Preta path can absorb any chakra-based ninjutsu. The Naraka path can summon the King of Hell, which can be used for interrogation and restoration. Finally, the user is granted the outer path, which gives them control over life and death at the cost of their own life if they don't have enough chakra. I was excited. I was basically the super ultimate ninja. I'd said I'd be back in the academy, and now I was. Towards the end of the first year of my banishment I ended up in Kumogakure, where I started to train in my Raiton and Ranton jutsu, and luckily enough for me I found a couple fellow Jinchuriki that helped me in my training as well: Killer B, the Hachibi Jinchuriki Gyuki, and Yujito ni, the Nibi Jinchuriki Matatabi. I mastered my Raiton and Ranton jutsu for that element. I also met Karui, Samui, Omoi, as well as the Reikage and Darui. When I was 15 I even trained at MT Mayabukozen, where I learned much, though the toads had promised to not tell Jiraiya I was there. I spent time there until after I was 18, mastering the Rinnegan Jutsu and Hiraishin. The toads had told me that once I left they would have to cancel the contract since I was no longer loyal to Konoha, which they were. I could understand that, though it did hurt losing a connection with my father, but I knew if I wanted to be strong and make a difference that I had to forge my own path. When I returned I heard some news from Kirigakure. The civil war was still going strong. I remembered Haku and Zabuza talking about Kirigakure and killings of those with Kekkai Genkai, and now that I was strong, S-class in fact, from all my training and the torture the Tods put me through to make me stronger, Kirigakure was the place where my journey truly began. Mizu no Kuni. Kirigakure no Sato. 9 years had passed since Naruto Uzumaki at the age of 13 had been banished from Konohagakure no Sato and became known as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, now at the age of 22. 5 years had passed since the same man had entered Mizu no Kuni, the land of water, and fought alongside Meitorumi and the rebellion to free the glorious village from the tyranny of Yagura the Yandame Mizukage and transformed the Chijiri no Sato, village of the Bloody Mist, into the beautiful village it had once been. Kirigakure's architecture was composed of several cylindrical buildings, with the Mizukage's palace being the widest and the largest. Like its name, the village was surrounded by a thick mist, with several mountains in the background, making it difficult to find by foreigners. Since Naruto had helped free the village, it had expanded into a village full of life. Vendors were selling their products, women were laughing and walking around, the kids were playing in the streets, and the men were just sitting back. This was not the Kirigakure that had been looked down on for years. This was Naruto's new home, and if he had anything to say about it, he wasn't leaving. Mizukage's palace. Sitting in the Mizukage's office behind the main desk was a man at the impressive height of 6'2". He had blonde spiky hair that stood up all over the place and hung down past his shoulder blades, like a certain Hokage. His face was unblemished, not so much as a spot of dust on his tanned face. His eyes were concealed by the Mizukage hat he wore, but his face was set into a blank stare as he looked at the Kiri no Shinobigatana Shishinen Shu, 7 swordsman of the mist, that was lined up in front of him. He wore steel-toe black combat boot along with a pair of baggy black cargo pants with various extra pockets, a shuriken and kunai holster strapped to each leg due to becoming ambidextrous. He also had a utility belt with several pouches on it along with scrolls for easier use. He wore a normal black t-shirt that had an upturned collar covering his neck. On top of that he wore a blue sleeveless trench coat with yellow fire licking the bottom, much like his father's own trench coat. Due to having no sleeves on it, his t-shirt covered up his biceps only. However, he did wear a pair of fingerless gloves which seemed perfect for fighting as they had metal plating fitted in. On the back of the trench had the kanji for Godame Mizukage in gold stitching with the Uzumaki spiral on the right and the Namikaze clan crest on the left. The trench coat's collar stood up covering his neck. Around his neck was also a beautiful silver chain necklace with the Shodai Hokage no Kubikazari, the first Hokage's necklace he had received from his mother figure, and the Godame Hokage, Tsunade Senju. This was Naruto Uzumaki, the Godame Mizukage and savior of Kirigakure. After he helped Meitorumi and the rebels save Kirigakure, he had been offered the position of Mizukage once Yugura had been killed. At first he had been hesitant, but after some words from Mei and he eventually accepted. Hell, being Mizukage he could help a lot of people, and help he did. Kirigakure was now a peaceful place and even followed the ideals the Shodame Hokage followed due to Naruto's own ideals being exactly those. Even though Naruto had grown up into a true shinobi that killed if he had to without remorse, he still believed in peace being attainable and Hashirama Senju's ideals. Everywhere he went in the village people waved, smiled and treated him like a hero and a normal person. They didn't bow like servants or worship him, but simply respected him and loved him. Something he had gotten used to, though it was weird considering his past. Since he had been banished he hadn't heard anything from Konohagakure or his friends, except a bit of information that Konoha was currently suffering a depressing. When Nami no Kuni, Wave Country, learned of Naruto's banishment, they were furious beyond words with the hero of their country being banished for something that was not his fault. They then sent a message to Konoha stating that they were annulling the trade treaty that they had recently made, and were ceasing any and all trade with Konoha, and that all merchant and transport ships that were controlled by Nami no Kuni would refuse to work or trade with Konoha. Also, any and all mission that Nami no Kuni would have originally given to Konoha would now be given to Suna. This had, of course, caused Konoha a great deal of trouble since Nami no Kuni was strategically positioned for trade with Konoha, the fire country with other important countries. What was worse was, when the tyrant businessman Gato was killed, the people of Nami no Kuni took over his shipping company, giving them major control over the central elemental sea trading industry. Such a blow would severely hurt Konoha's economic structure. The next country to act was Cha no Kuni, Tea Country. The leader of the Wasabi clan Jirocho used his influence over the daimyo of Cha no Kuni to send all his missions to Suna instead of Konoha. Since Jirocho was said to have had been impressed by the boy when he met him the few times he did, he was very grateful to Naruto for helping to deal with the Wagarashi clan and helping them to win the shrine race. He had also known how important Naruto was to Tsuwanda and knew she did not want him to be banished, He had also forbid all trade with Konoha in Degarashi port, which was an important trading place for Konoha, like with Nami no Kuni. This too had hurt Konoha greatly, since Cha no Kuni was a very important client of Konoha's, and its loss meant losing a lot of valuable missions and money. Another country to react badly to Naruto's banishment was Haru/Yuki no Kuni, Spring/Snow Country. When the Lady Daimyo Kazuhana Koki had heard what had happened, she had been beyond anger with Konoha. She, herself, went to Konoha along with 200 of her samurai and 12 Yuki ninjas and demanded a meeting with both the Hokage and the council. She ranted for 20 minutes about how furious she was with them at banishing the hero of Yuki no Kuni over their simple hatred of the Kyuubi. After which, she informed them that she was annulling Konoha's alliance with both Haru/Yuki no Kuni and Yokigekyo no Sato, the village hidden in the snow, which she had allowed to be maintained under the control of a few ninjas that had been loyal to her father before her uncle took control. She also annulled the technology trade agreement with Konoha, where Haru/Yuki no Kuni was planning on sharing some of its advanced technology with Konoha, as well as annulling all other trade agreements with them. This had, of course, greatly hurt Konoha, since many members of the council, especially members like Danzo and Koharu, were almost drooling over the ideas of having weapons like chakra armor and the volley guns and using them to strengthen Konoha. The council tried to persuade Lady Koiki from annulling both the alliances with her country and village and annulling the trade agreements, but she would not budge. She even told Jiraiya that she refused to star in the Ika Ika Paradise movie and that she would have some of her friends in the movie industry make sure that it would never be made, which caused the super pervert and Kakashi, when he heard, to each have 3 simultaneous heart attacks. Lady Koiki soon after left the village, not wanting to stay in it any longer. Soon after that, Shibuki, leader of Takigakyo no Sato, the village hidden in the waterfall, arrived in the village with 2 squads of Jonin ninjas demanding a meeting with the Hokage. Shibuki had been greatly angered by what Konoha had done simply because Naruto was a Jinchuriki. He had also stated that he had become disgusted at the way they had treated a good friend of his, especially one that had taught him how to be a real leader for his people, not to mention that Naruto was a hero to his people, since he had saved them from the rogue Taki Jonin ninja Suion and his followers from taking over his village and stealing the hero's water from them. He also stated that he and his people would never have treated their Jinchuriki Fu like that, since he stated that his people think Fu as a protector and friend to their village. Shibuki then informed Tsunade that he and the Takigakyo Council and the villagers of Takigakyo had agreed to annul their alliance between their villages since they wanted no part of Konoha. After saying his piece, he then left. This too left Konoha in a weakened state. The next 2 countries to annul their treaty with Konoha were Land of Birds, Tori no Kuni, and Land of Vegetables, Na no Kuni, led by the respected daimyo Toki and Haruna. Both women had been furious and immediately cancelled all trade with Konoha and started new treaties with other countries. Now that Konoha lost its last 2 minor allies, the only one left was Suna. Of course, soon enough, that too changed. Almost a year after Naruto's banishment, Suna announced its new Kazekage, Sabaku no Gara, Gara of the Sand, the Jinchuriki of the Shikaku the Ichibi, the one-tailed beast. When Gara first heard of what had happened, he had been so greatly angered by what happened to Naruto that he left the village for the day and unleashed his anger and fury by creating a massive sandstorm that spread out over 20 miles in length across the border between Suna and Konoha. Gara knew at the time there was not much he could do, but when he became Kazekage he caused several painful political headaches for Konoha and its council. He, like many others, also took apart the treaty between Konoha piece by piece until the only thing left was the treaty between the 2 villages, where both sides would help each other in a time of war, but only if it affected both villages. Even though both Suna and Konoha were still allies, the relationship between the villages was very tense to say the least, especially since Suna was regaining its former strength and received new funding from their daimyo and getting new missions from Konoha lost allies. Naruto was both sad and happy. Sad that his friends were suffering, but at the same time, happy because the council and elders were getting what they deserved. He had sometimes thought of trying to contact Jiraiya or Tsunade, but shook the idea out of his head when he realized that to the village he was a missing nin most likely, and he would only get them into trouble. He knew from the toads that they had told Jiraiya he was no longer on the contract scroll. How the man had taken it he didn't know. Hell, for all he knew, Jiraiya thought he was dead. It depended on what the toads had told him, he supposed. Shaking his head of any thoughts, Naruto looked at the Kiri no Shinobigatana Shishininchu stood in front of him, the new generation. A generation he had brought together and formed the most formidable team to have existed. He looked at the first person in the lineup. Kenpachi. He called out to the farthest swordsman on the far left, getting a nod from the man. Kenpachi was a tall, muscular man, even by most standards, being an impressive 7 feet 5 inches in height. He has a long face with pronounced cheekbones, and pronounced, hairless eyebrow ridges and a wild and aggressive appearance. He has green eyes and long, stringy black hair. A noticeable trait in his appearance is a long, thin scar running down the left side of his face and an eye patch over his right eye. His attire consisted of a full black shirt and pants with pinstripe bracers and greaves which merge into his sandals. Over the shirt was a white sleeveless haori with the village's symbol etched on the back. Kenpachi is known to be a violent fighter, who lives for battle, and enjoys a good fight more than anything. He even holds back in an effort to make any fight last longer. He claims injury and death are nothing but the price one pays for a good fight. Despite his tendency to be brutal, Kenpachi usually stops a fight if his opponent is too injured to fight back, claiming he is not interested in fighting weaklings who can't fight anymore. And he does not feel obligated to deal a death blow to anyone who cannot fight any longer. Kenpachi possesses the Koton, steel release, which allowed him to turn his body into steel, combined with his mastery of the Kabutawari, helmet splitter, earned him the name Kirigakure no Kayabona, berserker of the hidden mist, as he usually charged into battle and massacre all in his path. Naruto looked to the man beside Kenpachi. Kaname Kuriere. Kaname was the younger brother of Kushimaru Kuriere. Like his brother, he too was very thin and tall in stature, which gave him an overall gangling appearance. But unlike his brother who had long, shaggy, straw-colored blonde hair, Kaname had straight jet black. He also wore an umbu mask over his face that was a white, porcelain mask, with a green-colored triangle on its lower half, slits for eye holes and Kirigakure's symbol etched into the top. His attire consisted of a sleeveless black shirt, matching pants, complete with a waist guard, and Kirigakure's striped wrist and leg guards. He also wears bandages around his neck. He excelled at both Kenjutsu and Suiton Ninjutsu, which made him a prime candidate for the Kiri no Shinobigatana Shishininchu. Like his brother, he wielded Nuabari, sewing needle, with great mastery. Kaname was also a Irionin, medical nin, who was skilled in the Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique. Kaname was born with a split personality. One side was a kind, gentle man who loved to care for the wounded and sick. The other side, however, was a cruel, sadistic man who loved to experiment. He would often string his opponents up with Nuabari, keeping them alive while he operated on them. It was because of this that he was called Kirigakure no Nikuya, Butcher of the Hidden Mist. Receiving a nod from the man, Naruto looked the third member. Yasutora Hozuki. Yasutora Hozuki, a Jonin-rank shinobi of Kirigakure and a direct descendant of Nidame Mizukage. As such, his skills with his clan were on par with his ancestor. Yasutora had light-colored shoulder-length hair and blue eyes. He was typically laid back, jovial, and has a somewhat carefree attitude at times. He is also very charismatic and not averse to praising other people, though at times his short, fused temper tends to get the better of him. His attire consisted of a long-sleeved, high-collared gray robe, which has the pinstripe pattern that is common amongst the shinobi of Kirigakure. This article is worn over a dark blue suit, with a similarly colored sash wrapped around his waist, and a pair of sandals which reached up to his calves. A kiri headband is tied to his right arm. Like all members of the Hozuki clan, Yasutori carried water bottles within his robe. Despite being a proficient user of his clan's abilities, Yasutori mainly fought with the Shibuki splash. His skills surpassed that of Jinpachi Munashi that he earned the name Kirigakure no Bakugiki, Bomber of the Hidden Mist. However, he still made great use of his ancestors' jutsu such as the Joki Boy, Steaming Danger Tyranny, showing other that he didn't just rely on his sword. Yo Mizukage-san. Yasutori said, giving him a one-fingered salute. Naruto chuckled and shook his head before moving to the fourth person. Chojuro. Chojuro Eep, as he was called. Chojuro has short, tufty blue hair and dark eyes. He also has pointed, shark-like teeth, a common trait of the members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. He wears square, black-rimmed glasses connected to ear protectors, a blue pinstriped shirt and camouflage pattern pants. Also, he wears his forehead protector on the front of his holster. He also has shuriken holsters strapped onto each of his legs. Despite his membership in the Elite 7 Swordsman group, he is a shy individual and seems to lack confidence in his abilities. However, Naruto saw that deep down was a confident warrior that would proudly defend his village. Chojuro had been gifted with the Hiromikari, twin sword, which had the ability to transform into other chakra weapons. Hi, me Mizukage-sama, Chojuro stuttered. Naruto's head turned towards the 5th member of the unit. Amuri Ringo. Amuri was the only survivor of the original 7 swordsmen who sided with the rebellion against Yagura. Amuri is relatively short in comparison with the other members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. She has long, red hair, black eyes, and together with a kiri forehead protector, she also wore a simple cloth around her head, distinctively tied at both sides so as the ends of the material protrude upwards, while the remainder of hair is allowed to flow downwards. She wore a loose, pinstriped long-sleeved shirt with a dark obi around the waist, black pants which got much looser near the ends, resembling hakama, and striped leg warmers. Like all the other members of her generation of swordsmen, she wore bandages loosely tied around the neck and has jagged teeth like Chojuro. Amuri utilized the kiba, fangs, which are claimed to be the sharpest swords ever made, having the ability to cut through anything. With them, she could attack or defend with right-on jutsu capable of devastating an entire landscape. Combined with her acrobatic agility, not even 100 Chunin could be a match for her. Like Kenpachi, Amuri is vicious in a fight. She also toys with her opponents, and if she misses one, she will hunt them down. Despite her vicious nature in battle, she would show respect towards those whose fighting skills and courage meet her liking. Her nickname is the Inazuma no Kirigakure, Lighting of the Hidden Mist. Hi Mizukage-sama, Amuri said in a respected fashion. Naruto grinned at his 5th swordsman before moving to his 6th and final, who gave him a wink as soon as he looked. Meikoi, he said to his wife Mei Terumi Namikaze. Mei was also the candidate of the Godame Mizukage position, but it turned out the woman found desk work boring as hell, though no one would ever bad-mouth her as she could, in her own words, melt their balls, and everyone knew it was true. Mei and Naruto had gotten close to each other during the Civil War, and afterwards got married. After Naruto was made the Mizukage, they christened his desk to celebrate. Needless to say, the office needed a new one after that. She was renowned for being a bearer of 2 Kekkei Genkai, a rare thing indeed. The first Kekkei Genkai was Futon Boil Release, and was made up of techniques that combined fire and water-based chakra to create a powerful corrosive vapor capable of melting anything. The user, this being Mei, was also able to control the range and level of the vapor's acidity, making her a formidable opponent. The second Kekkei Genkai was Yoton, Lava Release, an element just as dangerous as Futon. Yoton Jutsu were techniques that combined fire and earth-based chakra to create a torrent of lava that can melt away almost anything. This chakra nature could also manipulate other related materials such as lime, which was an alkaline powder, rather than molten rock. Mei was a slender, attractive woman in her late 20s, 29. She had ankle-length, auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a topknot tied with a dark blue band with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs were short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 were long, crossing each other on her chest, just below her chin. Her eyes were green. She dressed in a long-sleeved dark blue dress, which fell just below the knees. It seemed to be closed at the front with a zip and was kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covered up to the upper part of her upper arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wore a mesh shirt that covered more of her upper body than her dress, but stopped short of covering her shoulders and still left a sizable cleavage. She also wore shorts in the same color as her dress, and underneath those were mesh leggings that reached down over her knees. Around her waist, she wore a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left. Furthermore, she wore high-heeled sandals and shin guards that reached up over her knees. She also wore dark nail polish and was usually shown with dark blue lipstick. Mei grew up with Zabuza Momochi and was basically his only friend. When Naruto heard this, he and Mei went to Zabuza and Haku's graves to retrieve not only the Kubikura Bocho, decapitating carving knife, but to move their bodies to Kiri. During the Civil War, Mei made use of the Kubikura Bocho that would have made Zabuza proud. Combined with her Kekiai Genkeish was given the title Shinkahana no Kirigakure, Crimson Flower of the Hidden Mist. Naruto koi, Mei said in a seductive tone that promised fun later while the others rolled their eyes. I don't usually call you here all at once, so I'm sure you're wondering what this meeting is about, he commented. Pretty much. Ken-Aim nodded, glancing around. And since there's no war going on, it is kinda strange for us all to be gathered. And for you to be so serious is strange too, Aimuri noted with a raised eyebrow, wondering why the Mizukage looked aged all of a sudden. Naruto chuckled lightly and gave an absent nod. First, let's wait for our comrade to arrive. No sooner had their leader said that the door opened, revealing a tall, thin young man with pale golden eyes and brown hair that reaches to his shoulders. His side parting let a large portion of his bangs cover the left side of his face. He wore a long, light blue kimono adorned with a small emblem of 3 bubbles on the back, and a pair of gray pants underneath, with an orange sash. The kimono hung loose, exposing his chest. In it, he carried a bamboo jug filled with a soap solution and a pipe. This was Utakata, Jinchuriki of the Rokubi named Saiken. After the war, Naruto had sent Umbu squads to find Utakata so he can return to the village. After many weeks of searching, the Umbu finally cornered the Rouge Jinchuriki and presented him a scroll written by Naruto himself. Though reluctant, Utakata returned and was amazed at the new Kirigakure. When he returned, Naruto put him in charge of their Umbu and Hunter Nin division. Report. Utakata. Hi Mizukage-sama. Akatsuki are finally making their move, as is Orochimaru. As soon as Akatsuki and Orochimaru left his mouth, everyone straightened up on full alert. How do you know? Ken-Aim asked. Naruto glanced at him. There have been reports all over the different countries of pairs of shinobi, missing Nin wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them. Naruto shrugged. According to our spies and Hunter Nin, they've already captured the Jinchuriki of the Gobi, Han. This surprised everyone. Han was one of the strongest shinobi of IWA, and that was without the help of his Biju. For him to be captured was no small feat. If Akatsuki is finally on the move, then what's that mean for us? Chojuro asked with a frown, running through many scenarios of running into Akatsuki and what they currently knew about them. Us? Mei asked with a scowl. We should be more worried about Naruto koi, she exclaimed, gripping the handle of her sword. Of course you're worried about Naruto koi, Yasutora mocked with a grin. What about Utakata-kun? Unless you don't like threesomes, he said with chuckle. At this, Mei and Naruto turned beet red at what Ken-Aim implied, while Utakata turned away with a small blush. During their love-making sessions, Naruto had found a very productive use of his shadow clones that Mei loved. Turning shy red to angry red, Mei brought out her sword. Care to say that again, Bubblebrain? A tic developed on Yasutori's head at his nickname as he took out Shibuki. What did you call me, you pasty tomato head? Enough! Mei! Yasutori! Aimuri barked, slightly annoyed at their childish attitudes, especially in front of their village leader. Once that was settled, Naruto turned once again to his fellow Jinchuriki. What about Orochimaru? He has amassed a large army, Mizukage-sama, with the same goal in mind, destroy Konohagakure. With the depression they're suffering from loss of trade and allies, the village likely won't survive. His army consists not only of Odogakure, but the Prajna group from Land of Woods, Hayashi no Kuni, as well as Kyuzugakure, village hidden in the grass, and Hashigakure, village hidden in the stars. Kenpachi sneered. So those wannabes are involved, huh? He never liked Hashigakure due to the fact that they had the audacity to claim they were a great village with their own kage. It just shows how desperate they are. So Slug Boy, Will Sune get involved since Orochimaru killed the Kage? Yasutori asked. Probably, but I won't bet on it. Due to the current Kazekage's hatred of Konoha. Any news on Kisame and the blade Samahada? Shark Skin, Amiri asked as the others frowned due to the man still having one of their blades. Last I heard, he and his partner Itachi were spotted in the Tsuchi no Kuni, land of Earth, before they disappeared. Well, the sooner we find that fish freak the better, so my husband, what are we going to do? Mei asked her Mizukage in a serious tone. Naruto sat in silence as thought over everything. On one hand he could let Konoha and the council burn, but on the other he wanted to protect his precious people that still resided in Konoha, the Konoha 11, minus Sakura, the Ichirakus, Irika, Erosenin, Shizen and Bachan. After 5 minutes of silence he spoke. What are we going to do? He asked, repeating the question rhetorically. It's time we stopped hanging back and watching the world pass us. It's time we finally revealed ourselves and the new Kirigakure no Sato to the world, he announced with a wide grin. Standing up, Naruto removed his hat, revealing his eyes that held the fabled Rinnegan. Behind him, 6 figures appeared, all bearing the same ripple-like eyes of the Rinnegan. Times were changing and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was right in the center of it all. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.